Welcome to Word of Grace and Truth. Today's topic is convert to grace and truth. Convert to grace and truth. Please let us operate with grace and truth, brought by Jesus. Then our righteousness will exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, who lived hypocritically by the law given by Moses. The scripture revealed in John chapter 1 verse 17 that the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus. So when Moses gave them the law, there were people that were living the law outwardly. They were identified as the scribes and the Pharisees, the religious leaders who thought that they know the law. And in the land of Israel, until the coming of Jesus, they were epitome of righteousness and holiness. So when Jesus came and made this statement, except our righteousness exceed the righteousness of the scribe and the Pharisees, it is heavy. Whose righteousness will exceed the righteousness of scribes and Pharisees, who are the epitome of righteousness. And Jesus now make us understand, yes, it is a fact and we must exceed their righteousness. It was when Jesus exposed them that they were hypocrites. They were living outside righteousness, self-righteousness for people to see, eye service righteousness. Inside of them, they were like tomb that contain rotten skin and muscles and bones. But outside, they did monument and people will see a beautiful tomb. So outside of the Pharisees and the scribes, people see holiness. But inside of them, they are rotten, they are hypocritical. They say what they don't do, and they force people to do it, whereas they cannot do. So Jesus looked at them and called them hypocrites openly, and now told his followers, look, except your righteousness exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, whom their righteousness were not based on truth. They were living false life, but they want people to see them as righteous. So Jesus now came with grace and truth. So with grace and truth, our righteousness will, without much effort, exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees. When we live by grace and serve God in truth, that is, we will live exactly the righteousness of God, which is pleasing to God. We see that everything we are doing, everything we could do is by the grace of God. And we do it in truth and not in hypocrisy, not in falsehood. That is how our righteousness could exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. Not the Pharisees that tried to obey the law for men to see, no. But when we live with grace and truth, when we operate with grace and truth, we know that whatever thing we are doing inside is what we reflect outside. We start from inside out, not outside in. So that is the difference. We live in grace, that whatever thing we could do is by the grace of God. That is, in another way, being poor in the spirit. And then we live in truth. Whatever thing we are doing, we know that we stand on truth. We are not in any way falsifying anything just for people. We live by grace and the truth. And whoever lives by grace and truth, we live a life of righteousness that exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees. Know this also, that what a hypocrite does doesn't reflect who he is. You see, what they do doesn't reflect who they really is. They do it for people to see. Remain blessed with God and know also that Jesus Christ is coming.